And I feel like the first thing we can do is be able to share our story in a way that just doesn't show why we're like beating our chest, because we mirror each other. We go around the world mirroring each other. So if we're going to beat our chest, other people are going to beat our chest. If I'm a dentist or a salesperson, I can tell you why I'm the best. Other people are going to tell us why they're the best. But that doesn't help anything. And I'll give you an example. If I'm an expert dentist and I have a non-expert patient and I'm not flawed, how are we going to help this person open up and be flawed too? But if I'm flawed, then I've created a safe space for this person to say, you know something, doc, I don't like brushing my teeth.
Hey everybody, I'm Ken Newhouse, and I'm going to welcome you to the Get Clients Now podcast, the show where high-growth consultants and professionals come to access the newest and most effective methods and systems for online marketing, advanced sales and persuasive communication strategies, and automated marketing funnels. And if you're wondering if the Get Clients Now podcast can help you get more high-value clients, enjoy more sales, build a massive tribe, and make more money, you're absolutely going to love this show.
Newhouse's work completely blows everything else that we've ever done with Google out of the water.
I have been looking for a way to grow my presence online, and what I've viewed from Newhouse's work was something that certainly is faster than anything I've seen before.
He says he's going to do something and he does it. He does it in the time frame that he says he's going to do it in. It's exciting when you talk about the results that you're going to get, and you can believe his word because he follows it up with action.
The Newhouse is direct, he's to the point, he tells you what's on his mind, and he backs his words up. From what I know now, from working with him, he's passionate about his work, and he backs it up 100%.
What I like best is you offer something that no one else has out there, which is a pretty comprehensive approach about marketing a system.
If somebody asks me, should they use Newhouse's team? Absolutely, because you're going to get the important information that you need very, very quickly.
On the internet, on the different marketing techniques, I've never experienced anything like this.
I would definitely recommend Ken Newhouse for someone who's serious about growing their business. I think that your results based on the numbers would at least double the sales in a very short time frame.
Hey everybody, Ken Newhouse here from kennewhouse.com, and I want to welcome you back to the Get Clients Now podcast, where the one-size-fits-all marketing model is dumb, the client-centric business model is king, and the sales control system gives you the tools to build your tribe with certainty. This is episode number 328 of the Get Clients Now podcast, and on today's show, we're going to pick back up with part 2 of the recent interview I did with Ben Zoldan. He's the CEO of Storyleaders, and as everybody knows, Ben is one of the world's leading experts on using the power of stories so you can become more irresistible, more magnetic, and more persuasive in the mind of your perfect prospects, patients, and clients. Ben is also the best-selling author of the book, What Great Salespeople Do, which was published by McGraw-Hill. And as I mentioned back in episode 327, Ben actually hates the title of the book because, as it turns out, the book wasn't written specifically for salespeople. Go figure that one out. That's just the title the publisher ended up slapping on the cover. You know, that book was actually written for anyone in business that has to use words to communicate with prospects, patients, and clients. It was written for anyone in business that has to get prospects to buy what you're selling. Go figure. It's actually written for anyone who wants their coworkers, employees, and team members to become the most effective communicators possible, which is an essential, absolutely critical business skill to have in 2019. Actually, 2020 is right around the corner. It's just a couple weeks away. We've got Christmas coming up, and we've also got New Year's, and the week between New Year's and Christmas is when we're going to launch the new podcast, .com Dentist. So be looking for that. Going to have a couple awesome shows right out of the gate. And so because I want to build a lot more excitement, I want to build a lot more anticipation, I'm going to go ahead and play again for you today the intro to the new .com Dentist podcast, which, like I said, is going to air the week between Christmas and New Year's. So the first episode should actually launch on December 26th of 2019. All right, so here's the intro to the new .com Dentist podcast. We'll listen to that. We'll dive back into the intro for Ben. And actually, my intro for Ben in the show today is really, really short because the information he has for you today is that good that I want to get to it as quickly as possible. All right, here we go.
Have you ever had a dream that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
What is happening to me?
The answer is out there. It's the question that drives us.
What is a .com dentist?
The .com dentist uncovers the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
They're watching you.
Successful dentists like you are a disease. You are a cancer to the corporate model. And we are the cure.
Get me a computer and an internet connection.
Welcome to the real world.
So you're here to save the dental profession?
So what do you need?
Marketing weapons. Lots of marketing weapons.
No one's ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy. 'Cause Kansas is going bye-bye.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what a .com dentist is. You have to see it for yourself.
Now, I don't know about you, but everybody that I've talked to, everybody that I've let listen to that, everybody that's heard it on the times that I've aired it online, tells me that it sounds absolutely amazing. It's unlike anything the dental profession has ever seen before, and quite frankly, the entire show, the format, the content, the presentation, the information, all of it is going to be 100% unique and different to the dental profession. This is high-level stuff, very sophisticated stuff. I'm very, very proud of it. I'm very excited. And I just think the intro itself sounds just amazing. It sounds really cool. And I'm really, really excited. I'm really looking forward to the release of that first episode on December 26, 2019. So be looking for that .com Dentist podcast. Having said that, let's go ahead and dive back into the remainder of the introduction for the show today with Ben. It's really short, and within the next minute and a half, we're going to be diving back in with Ben. So on today's show, you are in for a real treat, because on today's show, which is the second half of the interview I did with Ben about a week ago, Ben's going to actually reveal several of his most effective methods for using the power of authenticity and vulnerability in your storytelling so you can become almost unstoppable. So you can become so effective at communicating, as an example, with your prospects, patients, and clients, that you can literally double, and in some cases, you can even triple the number of prospects you convert into paying patients, clients, and customers. Something else that you're really going to love about today's show is the fact that when Ben reveals these frameworks, and I'm actually really surprised that he did this, Ben is going to reveal a couple of methods that he didn't even include in the book. Now, these are methods that he has reserved for his highest paying clients at Storyleaders. And if you're like me, and if you're like my most successful clients, and if you love the idea of learning how to make the sales process effortless and stress-free, you're absolutely going to love today's show. Now, if you remember back in episode 327, I went into detail with Ben's bio, so we're not going to do that today. I'll actually provide Ben's contact information and links to his website and to his book in the show notes, and we'll cover that at the end of the show today. And I'm doing that because the information that he's got for you today is that good. It is so good, in fact, that I want to dive into it as fast as humanly possible. So if you guys are ready, let's roll. Let's do it. Let's bring on Ben.
So when I think about healthcare providers, like instead of putting on this front and this expertise that we all, that we're like warriors, we're like scared of them, right? We repel from them. We go in reluctantly and we don't do, it's like, what if we took off the mask and we were just like our patients? We let people into who we are. I have this one doctor. I had a knee injury a few years ago. And he walks into the room, but he's not wearing a white coat. He was an orthopedic surgeon. I'll never forget it. And he walks in and I go, this is so silly. He looks kind of disheveled, like his shirt's kind of out. It's kind of rolled up sleeves, right? And he walks in and I go, when is Dr. Mills going to come in? And it was Dr. Mills. He goes, hi, I'm Andrew. And he sits down. We start to, talk. He looks at my knee, but he's like, tell me why you're here. But the conversation didn't go to my knee. It's like, I had this happen playing basketball. Oh, really? I play basketball. Oh, really? And there was this conversation. And it 15 minutes into the conversation, it wasn't like wham, bam, thank you, man. It was like something else actually happened. He started to understand me because I got into this whole thing, started to understand and I feel like even diagnoses go wrong, and because we're not getting to the heart of people's stories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, because when you get to the heart of their story, as an example, and they get to the heart of your story, so to speak, you talked about a bond and you talk about trust, whether they're really aware of it or not. Those patients are going to respond to your care much faster. They're going to be much more willing to accept your recommendations for treatment.
Yeah.
They're going to be much less skeptical when you tell them, hey, listen, this is, your insurance doesn't cover this. This is going to be $65,000, but look at all these other tests, look at all the patients we've worked with before. Look how it's changed their life. They're much more apt to want to jump in with that. You speak of 3 different types of stories. So, I want to touch on that.
And going back to that situation with Andrew.
Yeah.
And there's something about just Andrew that's different than Dr. Mills. Not that that's that important, but it was about his prescription, or to me, the thing I had to go follow. And I had to go do physical therapy. I remember when I had to go back and visit him again 6 weeks later. Like, I was not going to go back and not have done my part.
You don't want to disappoint him.
I didn't want to. We were like in this together. We formed a bond, and we overlooked that bond. A friend of mine had, friend of mine who I've been friends with for a long time. I've worked with him. We all got whispers that he was taking a medical leave from work. And it turns out that he had open heart surgery, and they caught this thing, thank God, in time. And about 2 months went by, and I finally called him or texted him. I said, hey, let's check in if you're able to. And we get on the phone, and he was telling me what he was going through. He's like, this was literally like, if you think about going through hell and back, that's what I went through. Like, the pain was so excruciating, right? And he goes, what saved my life, Ben? And I was like, what? He goes, the touch of the nurse. And I was like, what? The touch of the nurse. He goes, I remember feeling the nurse's hand on my arm, and the nurses were just always there. And that's kind of like, the touch of the nurse is what he remembers, not the surgeon who opened his chest up and performed the surgery. Like, I think about that, and I think about like bedside manner in this case, or what nurses do, like the care, the human experience of connecting with people. And if we just want to focus on that, I think the fear is I only have 12 minutes to do what I need to do on a sales call. If you have listeners out there that are selling medical devices, or, right, we have to get to the problem and then get to the solution because people need to know the ROI and all this stuff. Like, who convinced us of that?
Well, just to be fair, Ben, and I want to get your response to this, because you bring up a really good point. I don't think in the setting, because a lot of people, we have a lot of dentists who listen to the show, but we also have a lot of people in the dental industry who, I'm a contributor for Dental Town. I have been for going on 8 years now. A ton of people follow me there, but a lot of people who actually sell to dentists. And unfortunately, it's rare that the sales rep, whether it's like a local rep, or it could be, like a dealer, like a local dealer rep, or a different kind of rep that kind of co-travels around with them. It's the dentist, it's the doctor, because the doctor's schedule, or the doctor's office manager who's putting this person on a tight schedule. So it's not necessarily to their defense. They're not thinking about the numbers or this or that. They've been given like a little minute window of time. So how can they, utilizing what you're talking about, how can they kind of work that in, given those time constraints that are foisted upon them, and they got to work within that realm? They have to. They don't have a choice.
Well, I almost feel like we all think we all come in there because we're working backwards from what we're supposed to get done. I have to get this accomplished. I have this amount of time to do it. I have this short window. Do we really? Like, every time I think about that, how I operate, it's like when my daughter was resisting doing her homework, I hear her yelling at her mom, I'm not going to do my homework. I'm not going to do my homework. Here I am, trying to work from home this day. And so I run into the kitchen and the breakfast room where my daughter's supposed to be doing her homework. And I'm like, as quickly as I can, I need to get her to stop yelling and do her homework. So I go in there and I'm just like, that's all I'm thinking about. And I'm smart enough to go in there and say the right things, or even ask her the right question that will yield the right response. Right? my daughter goes, I'm not doing my math. I suck at math. So in that instance, I'm like, what do I need to do to get Abby to just shut up and do her homework and get peace back in this house? So I'm smart enough to go, Abby, you suck at math. What'd you get on your last math test? She's smart enough not to answer. And I'm like, you got a 94. You don't suck at math, so do your math. It's like we go about it like problem solution. Like we think that kind of stuff gets people to act. She starts spinning out even more. And like, you ever have those instances where like you go from 0 to 60 in like 10 seconds and now you're super angry and you're about to lose your own shit? So I'm in that mode. And I remember like I was standing right next to the refrigerator. And I'll never forget this. I open up like the refrigerator doors to get like the cold air. Like I walk in the kitchen and like I'm already 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds. And I just feel the air on my body. And I do my thing. And my ritual is like my breathe, Ben, 10 seconds of breathing. And it was so interesting. I looked at Abby and I saw and she was just young, I saw her shoulders and they were kind of collapsed in. And like in an instant, when I like calmed down, I wasn't so focused on the outcome. I was just there to see my daughter. I saw my daughter like just sad, like her head was down, her shoulders were caved in. I saw her collarbone and these petite little shoulders of her. And I was like, sweetie, I'm so sorry for like yelling at you to do your homework. And in an instant, Ken, I remember saying, and I had nothing planned. It wasn't programmed. I just felt really like bad. I was just forcing my daughter into something, even though it was the right thing. I looked at her, I go, look, I remember when, Grandpa and Grandma like would yell at me to do my homework, and Andy was great at math. I sucked at math, and all he would do is tell me to do my homework, and it made me feel like so ignored as a kid.
Yep.
Because I felt that way in that time. That like what naturally came out. And I'll never forget it. Abby looks at me and she's like, yeah. And she was like, and in an instant, like her zone went down, and I sat down with her. I started to open up about it. And I told her like my insecurities with math, and all I wanted was my dad to kind of help me do math, but he never sat down with me and did that. So now we're talking, and I see Abby literally take her work and start to kind of do it. And I'm like, Abby, don't worry about it. I'm going to do your math for you. Probably bad parenting. I don't know. But then she's like, no, I'm going to do it. And this other fight ensues, and she insists to do her math work. And she starts to do it. And it's not about that, but I'm sitting there kind of like dumbfounded, like what just happened? And she goes, Dad, you know what? I'm like, what? She's like, my teacher, and she starts to share how her teacher hasn't been calling on her in class the last like week or two. And she felt ignored by her teacher. And she just, and she started to open up in this most beautiful way that she would have never opened up about before. And I just want you to hold on to this idea, because you asked about vulnerability and this loop. And you asked about how do we create an attention with each other where we could work things out better. And I want to rewind what happened in that scenario, okay? If we can deconstruct it, because every time we do this, we get it right. And I think this is something for everybody, whether we're selling equipment and we have 3 minutes to get a doctor's attention, or we're a doctor and we're trying to get a patient to change their behaviors.
Or what about this, real quick? I just want to segue this in. What about when you have a patient? Because like you said earlier, you're afraid of the dentist. The dentist, that's a real condition. Dental fear, about a third of the patients come in terrified when they come in. So I just want to interject this in, and you continue, because I think this would serve that very well to help get past that.
The only thing wrong about what you said is, the only reason it's a third is because another third are lying, but they're really scared too. And then the other third are just reluctantly going. So, this is sensitive. This hurts. This ain't fun. And then society has crammed us since we were kids into such fear around our teeth. So it's a fear-based interaction. So I agree with you. But I think the problem's worse than we think. So if we deconstruct what happened, it's like I was originally so focused on what do I need to do to get Abby to do her homework? And I was just focused on the outcome. And I just created resistance. Like I'm here, she's here, it's just resistance. The minute I stopped worrying about the outcome and I was present and I saw an emotion in my daughter, because I opened up the fridge, I saw the emotion of my daughter. I was like, I've been there too. And then I was able to open up vulnerably with her and just authentically, genuinely share my experience. I say, Abby, look, this must suck for you. And I've been there too. And I remember when I was 13 or 15 and I was this insecure kid and it sucked. And the minute I was genuine about that, it's like we have this BS meter, right? The minute I was real about it, I wasn't trying to get her to do something. She opened up in return, but she didn't open up in the way I expected. She opened up with a truth that I would have never got. And then we actually had an experience. I shared, she shared. It's that vulnerability loop. And I feel like if take any of these interactions that we have fears of other people, if we can just go first, we can be leaders in the world. Like any of us can go first and share something that's vulnerable. It gives the other person permission to be vulnerable in return. And there is where we find connections. And it's not just a personal connection, which is important, but it's also, once we have that connection, the rest of the conversations, we just kind of follow each other. Like, it's not as hard to persuade people to do stuff in the world. Like, the only reason it's hard to is because some experts in the world told us that we're supposed to tell people what to go do and then they go do it. No, that's not how we do things. We're motivated by connection with people and then we're loyal to them. And I think that's such an important lesson for a dentist, for a salesperson, for a parent, for these politicians that get on our TVs every night that are lecturing to us like they're experts and we're dummies. So do you see that vulnerability loop, the idea of going first and then allowing the other person to then open up in return?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I not to the degree that I learned about it in your book, but I guess because of the way that I was brought up, I won't say that I was a very self-deprecating person, because early on I had a problem with going too far in the opposite direction, which really wasn't my personality, of trying to impress people with the fact that I am a doctor and this and that, and I was a specialist, and that just wasn't me. And so, yeah, I mean, it definitely makes a difference. And I honestly think, as a general rule, and obviously I haven't worked with every dentist and every chiropractor and every medical doctor, but I honestly feel that's why, well, actually the studies are pretty clear about it. Patients, as a general rule, feel a lot more connected with their chiropractor. And I haven't practiced now for, what has it been, 15 years almost. They feel a lot more connected on a personal level with their chiropractor than they do their dentist or their medical doctor, because of that very reason. Chiropractors are much more personable. They're much more willing to get down the trenches, so to speak, to be a real person. They're touching their patients. There's a lot more of an intimate kind of a relationship, very professional, obviously. But I mean, you're putting your hands on someone and you're putting them in all kinds of different positions and you're helping them get out of pain. So you have to listen to them to really understand. We're not just throwing prescriptions, and I'm not anti-medicine, but I do think that there's a lot to this. Actually, there is a lot to this. And this is something that I think a lot of dentists and people that sell to dentists, especially in online marketers, whatever your business, mom and pop, small business, whatever your business, you would benefit by taking this approach. But if we could, can we get into talk a little bit about some of the types of stories? I mean, you mentioned in the book 3 stories that everybody has to have in their repertoire. They have to have that, like, who am I, who I represent and who I've helped. Can you talk about that for a few minutes? Because that's one of the real important questions that I wanted to get to.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things I found in my work is nothing's, more, we ask ourselves when, we walk into any interaction. It could be something small, like you walk into Best Buy and you want to buy some little $200 piece of audio equipment. And one of those salespeople in a blue shirt comes up to you and says, "Sir, ma'am, can I help you?" What is our initial response?
Just looking.
Like, and we walk away, right? Like we lie. We're going in there to buy something. But like, where does that come from? Where does that response? We're all programmed. We all do it. No thanks, just looking.
I think it's a defensive mechanism that people don't want to be sold. They don't want to be pressured into doing something they don't want to do. And unfortunately, they put that label, or they make that assumption on anybody who's wearing that figurative blue shirt, whether it's somebody at Best Buy or whatever. Here's
what's crazy. I'm wondering if we're all wearing that blue shirt and experts don't even believe it. And here's why. If you walked into Best Buy and you absolutely knew that person that approached you was trustworthy, they were out for your own good, they were compassionate and caring, and they'll listen to you, regardless if they're an expert in the technology. If you knew those things, they were trustworthy, they cared about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would listen to you. Would you respond that way?
Yeah, I think you would mirror their behavior. You'd mirror your belief about that person for sure.
You probably wouldn't give that no thanks, just looking, right? Right? And yet we don't just do that to the salespeople. We do that to strangers that are trying to get us to do stuff. That's how we're hardwired, evolutionarily. But we're not running from saber tooth anymore. But for thousands and thousands of years, we have this part of our ancient brain that protects itself against anybody that's different from us. And we categorize. We look at something on the street, and if it's a danger, right, we're assessing. And if there's this part of our brain that sort of says, that person is not like me, therefore I don't trust, therefore I'm going to walk away. But we do that actually with experts in this paradoxical way that should be able to help us. We're making bad decisions for ourselves.
Yep.
So if we know that about strangers, it's like the first thing is, how do we allow somebody to know that we are not different from them, that we are like them? And then I think about that vulnerability loop. I think about John Scanlon, my mentor, who was so good at just letting people into him. Or I think about the story of my friend who's a cancer surgeon. He always goes in and says, this is who I am. This is my life. But I think the difference is, it's like we talk about children, and this is the best analogy. If we go to a cocktail party tonight, and it's around our children, and it's at the high school, and you're meeting other parents, everybody tends to talk about their children like it's a who has a better kid contest.
Yep.
Yeah, my kid went to Yale. My kid is a violinist, written a concerto, and is a star basketball player too, and gets 4.5, and already got a master's degree in philosophy. Now tell me about your child. It's like, what do you do?
My kid's already walked on Mars, so I mean, what do you want?
But it's like, but it can easily become this who has a bed, right? But what if we're real? Let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about it. And we're real. And then we get the truth from people.
Yeah.
And I feel like the first thing we can do is be able to share our story in a way that just doesn't show why we're like beating our chest, because we mirrored each other. We go around the world mirroring each other. So if we're going to beat our chest, other people are going to beat our chest. If I'm a dentist or a salesperson, I can tell you why I'm the best. Other people are going to tell us why they're the best. But that doesn't help anything. And I'll give you an example. If I'm an expert dentist and I have a non-expert patient and I'm not flawed, how are we going to help this person open up and be flawed too? But if I'm flawed, then I've created a safe space for this person to say, you know something, doc, I don't like brushing my teeth. Doc, I have bad habits. I wake up late, I roll out of my hamper, and I have wrinkled clothes, and I have horrible personal hygiene habits. I'm bad at sticking to things. I'm a smoker. I drink. But that's okay. Now we know what we're working with. Let's talk about this. How do you get people to open up? Well, it's to go first. So the first thing that we try to help people do is come to grips with your own story and your flaws. Look at the mistakes of the things that are hard to share. And it's in the book, I talk about how to put a story, a narrative around the major things in our lives. So I think for people's profession, for one, it's like, tell the story of who I am. I remember getting to know you. The first thing you talked about was things you went through that were really, really hard and how you've come out the other end of these really hard things in your life.
Yep.
And from that point, I was like, hey, you said, Ben, you want to do this with me? I'm like, dude, I'm all in. I'm all in with you, bro. Because I'm just like you. So that's the first thing, is be able to share the story of our lives. It's hard to do. If this might not be the best answer for this format, but the truth is that's not an easy thing to do. I think the takeaway is, can we share things about our personal lives that aren't perfection, but they're things that are imperfections.
I can tell you right now from just my firsthand experience, and again, the disclaimer, I have not worked with every dentist, a very small percentage, close to 1,300 over the last 15, 16 years. But having said that, the ones that are making more money, that are doing actually better with their practice, and they're having more fun and their patients love them a lot more, are the dentists who are much more in line with the format and the framework you're describing right now, with that approach to their life and to their practice, to their staff, their patients, the whole nine yards. They don't have the air of, I can walk on water. I'm the almighty, oral surgeon or whoever I am.
Well, I remember Dr. Mills when he came in there and he started to look at my knee, and I told him I was a basketball player, and he said, I was never a basketball player, but I ran track and I went to Cal. on a track scholarship. And he said, I wasn't very good. I was good enough to get in, whatever. I wasn't like world class. And he goes, I had a really bad injury. And I got, they took away my scholarship and he got kicked out of school. And so he was like, there he was like this 20-year-old kid who went to college for track and he had this injury. Then he got better and he became so inspired by, how he rehabilitated from his injury, and that inspired him to go back to school, then go to medical school, then become an orthopedic surgeon. And I think you used the word aura, like we have to have this aura of invincibility almost. That's what I was imagining. Here's a guy who just humanized himself through his story. And it was actually, how many people would reveal that? It's like you go to a doctor's office and you see all the plaques.
Yep.
Like that's supposed to I want, right? But it was actually through his...
People don't care about that. They could care less.
Right. But it actually creates a barrier because you're too good for me. It's like, but what happened with Dr. Mills was like, here he was doing the exact opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. He's like, I dropped out of school. I'm like, as a 20-year-old. And yet that created and fostered this connection and trust. And it's this paradoxical thing through his, the opposite of his plaque. And when we tap into our own stories, all of us have that. And I think that leads me to, I think you're going to ask what other stories to tell, the stories of why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I a dentist? There's probably some struggles in there we should say. Why do I sell this product? Why do I do this? Why do I care about this so fiercely? Well, there's a story. There's a reason. There's something about my life. Like I'll give you an example. I'll share with you why I do what I do. I really care about getting storytelling out to the world. I don't do this because, and by the way, Dr. Mills, I'd be remiss if I didn't go back to this. Like you said, that doesn't undermine success. That is the fuel for success. That guy has such a thriving practice.
Yep.
You go through his office, he has letters and pictures from professional athletes like Beckham. I live in LA. And all of these athletes have signed jerseys and these personalized notes to him. That dude is doing just fine. He is making dough, but he's doing it in a way that feels really good to everybody involved because he knows how to form a connection through sharing. The other thing is, I'll share with you why I do what I do. And this is just as an example, but it'll inform any of your listeners. I always felt like I grew up on the other side of the tracks, even though I really didn't, but I felt like I was gritty and I would just hustle and I would just try to get things in life. And a lot of people repelled from me. And I still struggle with this. Kind of go through life like a hammer, really aggressive. Like that was my MO in business. I need to, and I'm just trying so hard. And it was, being turned on by people who operate differently, like John Scanlon or this doctor. I started to see all these people out there that had this other way of communicating. Like, I just want to be like them because I felt like I was giving myself a heart attack, always trying to get to the outcomes. And I was just like, I don't want to operate like this. I'm in the middle of my life. There has to be a better way. And I started to see this better way. And now for me, the things I preach, which lead to cooperation, connection, empathy, genuine relationships. I'm talking about these things, but I suck. Man, I suck. I miss 9 out of 10 times. I get it right once. But maybe I'm working to get it right 2 out of 10 times and 3 out of 10 times. But I see it's because our world is so disconnected right now. Like we're so lodged into our own camps that we need to start communicating to each other in a way where we take people in. We stop retreating and listen. When we listen to each other, our families are more functional, our businesses are better, our patients listen to us, our people buy what we're selling, and the world becomes a better place, period. And we need to create a culture around that.
Yeah, I just want to interject this. I think if you're a dentist and you're listening, or you're a chiropractor or whatever, doesn't matter what kind of business you own, don't just be this way inauthentically. Be authentic when you do this, but at the same time, you got to be this way with your staff as well as your patients, as well as everyone. This is not just a targeted strategy to use as a quote unquote sales technique for getting more of your patients to say yes and accept your recommendations, your case presentation, your treatment recommendations. That's not what this is about. This is about becoming this type of person. Be, do, have is something I learned a long time ago. If you want something, you have to become if you want to achieve a certain level or a different result in your life, you have to become different. It's not like, I'll go to the gym after and start dieting after I lose 20 pounds. No, you change how you eat and you try to become a healthier person so that you can lose the 20 pounds. And so don't just look at this as something you're going to do. Look at this as who you become. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's my take on pretty much anything that I want to do in life, especially something like this.
All right. So so who do you want to become?
No, if I want to actually have,
I'm curious for you, because if you're asking everybody,
who do I want to become? Well, I'll tell you right now that I have a very low tolerance. I'll go to the mat for a client, but I have a low tolerance. I won't divulge anything about this client, but I recently had a very talented, very successful, just amazing new client. Unlimited potential, already doing very, very well in the practice. Obviously, this is a doctor, is a dentist. But when I engage in an interaction with someone in a business standpoint, I'm not a magician. I got to have them do some things and I got to do my stuff. And if they're not going to do their stuff, don't even start. And so for me, you talked about, you going from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds and you had to stand in the fridge. Well, I need to have a block of ice strapped on my back, on the back of my neck, because I have very little tolerance for someone who thinks they can solve a problem or, grow their practice or get the results that we're talking about by simply throwing money at it. And this is a lot of money we're talking about, at least to most people. $100,000 is a lot of money. And so throwing that kind of money and then you not upholding your end of the agreement, I'm not doing this because I want your money. Obviously, I expect to be paid. I'm going to do a good job. But at the same time, I don't want the business if you're not going to participate, because I almost feel guilty that I'm taking someone's money because we're not getting the results we want. And we're not getting the results we want because of them not doing the part they agreed to do, like not even remotely close. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it fires me up. And who do I want to become? I want to become a person who's a lot more long-suffering. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, it talks about a person named Daniel. Daniel was a person who had an excellent spirit. And I think for myself, and I do fall short of this dramatically, but I want to be a person who has an excellent spirit all the time. So in those instances where I get frustrated and really bothered by someone, I would like to be able to maintain that excellent spirit and not take it personally and not be angered by it, because it bothers me. You commit and give so much to people, and they throw money around like it's just growing on trees, and it's their money, they can do what they want. But when you tell them don't start and they do this, and it doesn't happen often, but it leaves a taste in your mouth that you just, as I mentioned to you earlier when we first started the show, I said, if I ask a question and you need me to re-ask it, feel free. And I ask you about your time. And I said, the reason I ask you that, because it happened once, somebody kind of threw it at me and it kind of threw me off. And so, that's one of the problems I have from getting hit by a dump truck. I told you that when we first talked. Head-on collision with a dump truck. Sometimes I'll be talking and completely lose track of what I was talking about. But in essence, I guess I'll come up with that thought probably after we're done with our call. But having said that, I just want to be a person who's got an excellent spirit all the time, and not just the kind of person who, has an excellent spirit most of the time. When somebody really pushes me against the wall, I need to be better about maintaining my cool, so to speak, and not letting it get under my skin.
Yeah. What I was thinking as you were just sharing that?
What's that?
And maybe this gets back to it, because it's so easy to get into the bits and bytes of techniques, right? And what we're supposed to do. And okay, I'm here to talk about storytelling and how to go first and be vulnerable. So you get, and it's not about that. I think what you said is about a mindset. And then when you brought up, who do you want to be? And then I asked you that, what I was hearing you say was maybe I didn't get it, but I'll give it a shot. I was listening to you talk about like you having this expanded possibility of your own potential. You want to fulfill this potential and be in the moments and have these experiences. And I just feel I want to do more. I want to be better.
I want to be more godly. I'm a devout Christian. I want to be more like Daniel had an excellent spirit. Jesus had the most excellent spirit. And so, I don't preach on my podcast, but I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian. I just want to be a more godly, more patient, more kind, understanding. Giving's not so much the problem. It's just, I think with me, the understanding part, but you nailed it. I want to be a better person. That's, the ultimate human is our model. And that is, that's how people were supposed to be.
This is where we break down, which is, I ask that all the time, and I ask that of myself, and we all want to be more and be better and do more when our time's up.
Yep.
And I see it through a different lens than you do, by the way, and my way I make sense of it, but I share the same values of doing more and being better. And we're hardwired to do these things. And the things that give us meaning and purpose are not the things we necessarily do every day, but we can, whether we're a dentist, a salesperson, a father, a brother, we work on the manufacturing line. A friend of mine works for the organization that does, they go around the world and they study longevity of different cultures, lifespans.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Blue zones.
Yeah.
Fascinating. There's a lesson in here. And, there's in every country or region across, there's they studied every subculture that has the greatest lifespans. And in every one of these, there's one in a part of Okinawa, Japan, and their lifespan is literally 20 years greater than ours. You have the highest amount of centurions, people who live into their hundreds.
Yeah.
By far different than anything in Western civilization. There's a subculture, and there's one in California, there's one in Russia. And it's weird because it dispels a lot of myths. You would think, okay, well, this culture in Okinawa, Japan, well, they live off of fish, and so that must be it, their diet. Well, there's other cultures that eat fish. So yes, that's healthy. Yes, we get it. But that's not the only, right? That's not it. Okay. Is it religion? Well, they're religious people, but there's other cultures that are religious too. So that's important, but is that it? Okay, that's not it. Well, DNA. Some people just hit the jackpot like this culture, right? Well, okay, that exists in other cultures too. So what is it? And what they discovered was it was two things. It was meaning and purpose. In other words, community. When we're a part of something, doing our part in community, it means with people. People are better together with people.
Yep.
And what I think we can take that wisdom from that study and say, what can we do to build meaning and purpose and community into what we do? It means when we're with people, we are with them. So when I think about storytelling, I am with you. It's not about tell a story and open up to somebody and be vulnerable so they open up so you get them to do whatever. Do your homework, brush your teeth, buy a piece of equipment. That's not why we do this. We do this because we're fundamentally hardwired to connect with each other. And when we connect with each other, right, we're giving ourselves meaning and purpose.
Yep.
And that's for any of us, whether we drive Uber, we sell something, we're a dentist. But if we focus on people being all in with people, our lives are better and we attract people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, man, I got 3 minutes left. I hate to cut you short, but what's the one question today that I didn't ask that I should have asked? Because I had 4 or 5 more questions that I want to ask. And in fact, I would actually entertain the idea, I don't know about you, of doing another interview at some point down the road here, not too far down the road, but because I have more questions about the book. What's the one question I didn't ask? And then I want to ask you about your training programs, because I know those are unbelievably popular. I mean, crazy popular.
What question would you, I don't know. Ask me if I'm good at storytelling.
Okay. So Ben, in your eyes, I mean, most people, I think everybody that I've read online sees you as a world-class storyteller and a teacher of how to tell stories. But what are your thoughts on your ability to tell stories?
I suck. And I'm insecure about it. And I know why. Because every time I have to share something about myself, it requires vulnerability. I have to let people into who I am. And I come from an experience where I was really insecure, worried about what people think of me. I still do. It still haunts me, but I fight it. And I try to put practices in place where I could just share about myself and stop worrying about how it lands on people. And I feel like when you talk about my workshops, I feel like I'm good at the other stuff. Literally, if you think about storytelling, it's not like is somebody charismatic, engaging, all this stuff. That's all just the price of admission.
Authenticity.
Yeah, it's how many people get real, right?
Yep.
And I feel like in my workshops, it's really workshops, trainings we bring into corporations that help people get real. That's it. Like, how do you get real, get comfortable with yourself, do the dirty work to look inside, listen to people, and therein lies the magic. I feel like I'm the opposite of that because I grew up kind of hardened, siloed, like insecure, defensive, borderline, paranoid about the world, not trusting the world. And
like Grant Cardone.
Yeah. But we have, right. And that's how we end up with this, like,
yep.
I don't know. But here's the thing. I share that with you because I feel like I'm the alcoholic, leading the AA class.
Yep.
I'm an expert at the other things. And I think that's important for a lot of us to just know what our place is in the world. So I'm in this weird way teaching something that's really, really hard for me to do.
Yeah. But at the same time, and I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, and I think from whether a dentist wanted to come to one of your trainings, or if you had to, come to theirs, or in fact, if one of these, multi-billion-dollar dental corporations that sell, anesthetics and things like that, like Septodont, my wife actually used to be a pharmaceutical rep for them. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. They're selling like Septicaine and Lidocaine and all those. Just a bazillion different products, for dentists. They're interested in the bottom line. So while this might sound a little ethereal to them, it's real practical stuff. But bottom line is these kind of skill sets and this kind of like becoming a different kind of a person, the things people are learning in your trainings, that has a real bottom line impact. That has a real impact on their bottom line, does it not? I'm an advocate for social proof. I'm an advocate for utilizing video testimonials, and I won't say one of the few people, but you've done an excellent job at just getting people to share their experience. It's not staged, it's nothing else. And the transformations that I'm seeing in these people on your videos, that's one of the reasons, not just the book. When I checked you out and I saw these other things, I'm like, I want to get this guy on the show because so many people will benefit from him. But people really, if you're, like the corporate guy, you're in the C-suite and you're concerned with the ultimate, quote unquote, bottom line. There's a pretty big difference, monetarily speaking, in the performance of these people after the fact they've gone through your training. Is there not?
Well, yeah. And people, it's funny because we think that like all these soft things we talk about, woo-woo, new agey, like I'm not that guy. But yet it's these soft things aren't so soft. Like how we really tap into these relational skills with one another and start to feel and be open with one another. The fact that somebody calls these soft skills or it's soft or California-y, it's just because those people aren't doing it. And it's kind of like the people who struggle the most, like me. And these are skills. They are. These are skill sets that we can follow. Vulnerability is a skill set. Storytelling, how we share ourselves, how we listen to each other, how we foster environments where people want to open up around us. And use the word magnet earlier in the show. Forgot the context, but can we be magnets to people? That's what we all want.
Yep.
These are skills, and these are the skills that make the best people. If we look at the top 1%, take Navy SEALs. The myth is that it's like the best at what they do. No, it's the best. The people that make it to Navy SEAL 6, the elite of the elite of the elite, are the people who have relational skills that they could trust each other. These are relational skills. The top of anything have these other qualities, and it's not in opposition to doing the things we need to do for performance and production and winning and all these. It's actually fuel for these things we got to do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. All right. So how can people find out about you? I know your website. Tell us your website.
Yeah. Storyleaders.com. Simple. Storyleaders with an S. And
what about this? Do you do keynotes at all?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, because I know the dental industry is really big on, there may be only like 8,000 or 10,000 people there, but that's still a pretty good size audience. But they have tons of these things, like constantly. They're having them all the time. And so every major city in America has a dental convention every year, and then there's all these other trainings and things like that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off about your website. So storyleaders.com, and then you were going to add something else to that. What was that?
I'm easy to find. But what I want to say now in closing is that, spending the time with you is a no-brainer. And I just think, Ken, that you walk the talk. I feel your energy like a furnace that burns inside of you and how much you care to help people and why you do this. And it's so clear. And in our first conversation, you opened up and you went first. You just kind of shared who you are, why you do what you do. You didn't hold anything back. You shared your own vulnerabilities, and hopefully I did in return. And I just appreciate you a ton, man.
I do as well. I really do. And I know the members of the Get Clients Now Nation. And even though the podcast isn't live yet, I know all the members of the .com Dentist Nation are going to eat this up. And so consider that coming back on, because there's a lot more that I want to ask you. Just for right now, I'm like constrained on time. But I'd love to have you back on at some point not too far down the road.
You got it, and I appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll be in touch.
All right. Take care.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. If your business is struggling and you can't crack the online marketing code, and you'd like to access the newest and most effective strategies, systems, and tools that are working right now in the trenches, check out the funneltribes.com online community and discover how thousands of consultants and professionals just like you are transforming their businesses, building massive tribes of loyal clients, and making more money.